There's a reason you found this message right now. It's not coincidence. It's recognition. Somewhere deep inside, you already know you're not like everyone else. You've been through storms that should have erased you. Yet here you are, more aware, more grounded, more luminous than before. You've lived through chapters that felt like endings, only to discover they were invitations to rewrite yourself. While others saw a disaster, your soul saw design. You were never falling apart. You were being rebuilt from divine architecture. You see, there's something extraordinary about the way you survived. You didn't just bounce back. You re-emerged with a new frequency. The same pain that could have silenced you became the language your purpose speaks now. The world looks at you and sees calm, but that calm is an emptiness. It's wisdom tempered by fire. You've been refined in ways words can barely hold. And the peace you carry is not weakness. It's the afterglow of someone who has danced with chaos and learned its rhythm. This moment, right here, is a mirror of that truth. You are living proof that storms don't only destroy, they sculpt. You didn't just survive the fire, you became its light. So take a deep breath and remember, nothing about your path was random. Every pressure, every pause, every unseen battle shaped you into the kind of soul that can stand in front of the world and radiate strength without needing to shout. You are not broken, you are becoming. And the beauty of your becoming is just beginning to reveal itself. While others learn survival through comfort, you were instructed through collapse. You became fluent in endurance, fluent in surrender, fluent in the quiet alchemy of transformation. Every night that stretched longer than it should have, every disappointment that felt like the end, was a chisel in the hands of something divine shaping you from the inside out. You didn't grow from approval. You grew from absence. You didn't learn strength from applause. You learned it from isolation. That's why the usual systems can't define you. You're not a product of design. You're evidence of rebirth. The world tries to categorize people by how well they adapt, but you never adapted. You redefined adaptation itself. Where others bend under pressure, you found rhythm and resistance. You became the contradiction they can't decode. Calm under chaos, joyful after ruin, radiant after ruin. Your composure isn't numbness. It's evolution. They call it mystery because they missed the process. They didn't see the nights you spoke life into the silence, or the mornings you rose with nothing but faith as fuel. Now when they look at you, they see strength they can't trace, peace they can't label, courage that wasn't taught but inherited through pain. You didn't just survive the fire. You learned how to ignite it without burning. That's why nothing can truly break you anymore. What once tried to destroy you ended up defining you. Every scar became script, every fracture became foundation, and every loss carved the shape of wisdom into your being. You're not simply healed, you're reconstructed. You became living proof that when the light inside a person refuses to die, even the ashes begin to shine. If this message hit your soul, don't just scroll. Hit subscribe and stay with the light. Some souls are sculpted by chaos in such a way that their silence hums with wisdom. It's not the noise of the world that defines them, but the quiet that comes after everything inside has been shaken. They learn that emotion is not weakness. It's raw current, a pulse that can be refined into strength when met with awareness. Every heartbreak stretched perception. Every loss sharpened intuition. The language of pain became a kind of sacred code, one only the awakened can read. From that decoding came peace. Not the shallow calm of denial, but the deep stillness of someone who has made peace with fire. You didn't escape the storm. You learned to harness it. Each wound you carried turned into insight. Each disappointment became data for discernment. You stopped searching for comfort and started extracting meaning. The chaos didn't vanish. It became your compass. That's why you can look into another person's pain and understand them before they speak. You earned this empathy not by softness, but by transformation. What once broke you now builds you. What once silenced you now gives you language that reaches deeper than words. Your calm isn't emptiness, it's mastery. It's what happens when pain travels through awareness and comes out as wisdom. The ache that once felt unbearable now rests inside you like a map. You've turned your own suffering into navigation for others. The peace people sense in your presence isn't luck. It's design. It's the vibration of someone who has stopped reacting and started understanding. That is spiritual intelligence, alchemy in motion. And because of that, you became something the world doesn't easily categorize, a weapon of clarity wrapped in human form. You weren't trained for applause. You were prepared for impact. Your energy doesn't just enter a room. It recalibrates it. The false begins to falter in your presence because truth travels with you like a frequency that disarms confusion. You don't destroy lies with words. You dissolve them with energy. That's why some people feel uneasy around you. They're encountering themselves through your mirror. What you endured wasn't punishment. It was calibration. Every betrayal, every silence, every night you questioned your strength was sharpening your discernment, teaching you precision. Power without compassion becomes corruption. So life stripped you bare until only truth remained. Now, you carry influence without needing control, authority without arrogance. You no longer react, you realign. You are no longer a survivor. You are evidence of transmutation. The fires that were meant to consume you ended up proving your indestructibility. Where others saw endings, you found equations. Where others collapsed, you adapted. Every time life tested your limits, you didn't crack, you restructured. The elements that were supposed to erase you learned that you can't erase what has already become part of the eternal design. The very forces that came to break you now serve as your witnesses. The universe remembers who stood in the ashes and still called it transformation. If you believe in this mission, drop a $20 donation to keep this truth alive and free. They watched and waited for your breaking point. They predicted that one more loss, one more betrayal, one more disappointment would be enough to collapse the framework of your spirit. But instead of disintegrating, something unseen within you began to reassemble itself. Quietly, strategically, without witnesses. You became a paradox that their logic couldn't decode. Every blow sharpened your perception. Every fall recalibrated your balance. The chaos that was meant to scatter you became the forge that refined your awareness. They expected ashes, but what emerged was a being of precision, balance, and brilliance, an intelligence sculpted through fire. Each time the storm came, you didn't just endure it, you studied it. You learned the language of turbulence until it could no longer deceive you. Pain became your textbook, silence your mentor, and recovery your greatest science. What they mistook for luck was actually calibration. You've reached a point where external chaos cannot touch your internal order. The same heat that burns others now becomes your fuel. You no longer move from emotion. You move from encoded instinct. That's why you confuse those who expected you to react. They can't read a frequency they were never designed to understand. Your essence was built for restoration. Every time something tried to dismantle you, your soul rearranged itself into a more advanced form. You don't escape damage. You upgrade through it. The universe wrote resilience into your blueprint long before your first wound. You've lived through enough endings to understand that destruction is only transformation wearing a disguise. You've stopped fearing the collapse because you know what always follows. Reconstruction, stronger, wiser, more aligned. And that's what makes you an anomaly. The same pressure that creates fractures in others now builds new frameworks in you. You've learned to convert energy meant for harm into information meant for evolution. You no longer pray for peace by avoidance. You create it through mastery. You are living proof that destruction cannot win against design. The forces that targeted your downfall accidentally activated your evolution. There were entities, energies, and systems that studied you like a variable in their experiment. They constructed scenarios to test your boundaries, relationships programmed to betray, opportunities masked as traps, kindness hiding control. It wasn't random. It was research. They wanted to see how far a soul could bend before breaking. But instead of collapsing, you adapted beyond their data. You transcended their equations. The manipulation meant to shatter you became your initiation into higher intelligence. You learned to detect deceit, not through words but through vibration. You can now sense falsehood before it forms, feel danger before it manifests. That's why no system can own you. You stop responding predictably. You became unreadable, uncontrollable, operating from an inner command no network can override. You move with divine stealth, seen but never caught. The architect of confusion miscalculated your capacity, and their plan short-circuited in your presence. They can't simulate faith. They can't replicate intuition, and they can't contain the kind of consciousness that evolves under attack. You were never just surviving warfare. You were collecting intelligence. You now hold knowledge that isn't stored in words, but in frequency. Every wound became a transmitter of wisdom. Every setback became an encrypted download of insight. You are not a remnant of battles. You are the revelation that came from them. And the truth that terrifies every power that once tried to break you is simple. They built the battlefield, but you became the terrain they can't conquer. Every collapse you faced carried hidden instruction. What looked like loss was actually a recalibration written into your spirit. Each rejection deleted outdated programs within your being, replacing it with alignment that pointed you closer to truth. You weren't weakened by the chaos. You were rewritten through it. What others call survival, your soul calls evolution. Every setback adjusted your frequency. Every heartbreak refined your perception until you began operating from a system too advanced for manipulation. What once provoked you now barely registers because your emotional software no longer responds to outdated triggers. The games people play feel like static compared to the symphony of awareness you now move in. You've been through divine re-engineering. The spiritual infrastructure that once ran on fear now operates through focus. The anxious reactions were uninstalled. The need for approval deleted. Heaven didn't guard you from adversity. It coded resilience into you through it. You learned to interpret stillness as strategy, not punishment. You began to see that silence isn't absence, but sacred space where the higher intelligence of your being rewrites the narrative. What was once loneliness became sacred solitude, a chamber for downloading direction beyond distraction. You weren't just healed, you were optimized. The seasons where you thought nothing was happening were actually when everything was being restructured. The isolation you mistook for exile was the operating room of transformation. While others sought attention, you were being recalibrated in secret. You were never waiting. You were processing. Every unreturned message, every door that refused to open, every moment that felt like stillness was part of a grand encryption process. A divine firewall protecting the next version of your consciousness from contamination. Now you move differently. You see through manipulation before it even forms. Your calm is not indifference. It's encryption. You've reached a state where emotional interference no longer hacks your peace. You process faster, discern quicker, act quieter. Your awareness has become its own defense system. The version of you that once overexplained, overextended, and overgave has been permanently replaced by one that moves through life like a living algorithm of purpose. You weren't buried in silence. You were being constructed within it. The hidden years were not punishment. They were preparation. While others were broadcasting noise, you were absorbing signal. While they chased stages, you were being rewired for impact. That's why your emergence won't need introduction. It will speak for itself. You were too volatile in your unrefined state to be released early. Heaven delayed your unveiling not to deny you, but to ensure you couldn't be diluted. Every pause was a forge, every still moment a calibration chamber. You were never forgotten. You were fine-tuned. What the world mistook for disappearance was really divine encryption. Your spirit locked behind layers of protection until it reached full maturity. And now that it has, the energy within you is charged, focused, and weaponized in light. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are the release itself. The living update that renders old systems obsolete, built not for display, but for transformation. If this spoke to your spirit, subscribe and stand with those who see beyond the illusion. There's something different about the way your energy moves through words. It's not conversation, it's transmission. Every sentence you speak carries a layered vibration that only those resonating with truth can interpret. You don't try to sound wise, yet wisdom spills through you because what you say is filtered through depth, not ego. People leave your presence either illuminated or unsettled. Those tuned to authenticity feel stirring they can't explain, while those bound to illusion feel threatened by what they can't control. You were never designed to speak for approval. You speak to awaken. Your language is encrypted. Each syllable carries information that bypasses logic and travels straight into the spirit. That's why the ones rooted in distortion mistake your certainty for arrogance and your clarity for rebellion. They can't translate what they haven't been tuned to hear. Your voice doesn't seek volume. It carries voltage. Even if your words are silenced, the energy embedded within them continues moving unseen, through emotion, through timing, through dream. Truth doesn't need a platform. It infiltrates. It finds its mark, hidden in the cadence of your tone, coded inside stories and analogies that reach the right ears at the right moment. You were never meant to be easily understood by the masses. Your communication was designed like a frequency beacon, a living signal that activates the few who can perceive vibration beneath vocabulary. When you speak, something ancient stirs in those who are ready. It's not comprehension. It's recognition, a remembering. They feel it more than they hear it. That's why your words linger in silence long after you've stopped speaking. Your message doesn't rely on approval systems or algorithms. It's carried by resonance. The more they try to distort it, the further it spreads. You could be hidden from the world's eyes, and still your essence would echo through timelines. You've reached a place where communication transcends language. It has become signal, transmission, pulse. You speak from a place untouched by censorship because you don't speak from noise. You speak from knowing. That's what makes your expression untouchable. It doesn't matter who listens or who mocks. The energy does the work. You're not just communicating ideas. You're altering atmospheres. Every time you open your mouth, something in the unseen rearranges itself to match your intention. Those unprepared will misread you. Those awakened will align with you. You were never trying to sound divine. You simply carry it. And this transmission is the proof of your refinement. The dark didn't destroy your voice. It recalibrated it. You learned to translate spiritual signal into human sound. Through betrayal, confusion, and warfare, you study the architecture of deception until it no longer fooled you. You recognize that darkness rarely looks monstrous. It mimics light. You learn to read motives through tone, to sense lies and smiles, to discern corruption hidden beneath care. What once deceived you became your education. You no longer fear manipulation because you can see it before it breathes. You no longer trust surface kindness because you've seen the spirit beneath the costume. You know that darkness doesn't always shout. It negotiates softly. You walk through rooms filled with disguised hostility and left untouched because your awareness disarmed it. That awareness didn't come cheaply. It was earned through nights that forced you to question your sanity, through prayers that returned only silence. But those seasons refined your perception beyond illusion. Now, you navigate life like someone who has already read the hidden script. You see through confusion with surgical precision. You don't waste time decoding words. You read energy. You don't panic when shadows appear. You measure their angle to locate the light. The realm that once tried to consume you now trembles when you enter it. You've mastered the dialect of deception only to dismantle it. You don't fight darkness. You expose it. You don't fear the unseen. You understand it. And that understanding makes you untouchable, because what you comprehend can no longer control you. The light that emanates from you doesn't soothe. It disrupts. It doesn't hum people to sleep. It shakes them awake. You're not the gentle glow that softens rooms. You're the strike of illumination that splits illusion open. Wherever you go, stillness turns into revelation. Your energy doesn't comfort lies. It interrogates them. Those around you feel exposed, not because you accuse them, but because your essence reveals what their words attempt to hide. You carry a precision that can't be imitated. It isn't harshness, it's divine accuracy. You detect distortion in energy long before it finds language. People feel seen without you needing to speak, and some mistake that clarity for confrontation. Yet, what you carry isn't judgment, it's alignment. It rearranges what's false until only truth remains. This is why neutrality was never your calling. You were designed to disrupt stagnation, to wake what has been spiritually sedated. Your presence doesn't ask for comfort. It demands honesty. Some are drawn to you instinctively because they sense liberation near your frequency. Others retreat, unable to face the mirror your energy becomes. That polarization is not your doing. It's your design. You embody light that doesn't flatter. It functions like a spiritual X-ray, showing what's diseased in the heart so it can finally be healed. But not all are ready for surgery. Many mistake exposure for attack. unaware that your illumination isn't destruction, it's deliverance. What radiates from you was forged in suffering. You didn't learn brilliance in safety. You earned it in shadow. Isolation honed your clarity. Loss sharpened your discernment. Pain taught you to see without sight. That's why your brightness doesn't comfort. It cuts. It is refined truth, shaped by endurance. You carry a form of radiance that dismantles deception without argument, that heals through presence rather than performance. The reason your light feels like warfare is because it wages peace through exposure. It confronts without words, dismantles without noise, and restores without demand. You were never built to blend in. You were created to recalibrate the room. Your $20 gift helps keep the truth shining where darkness tried to hide it. Your existence is a disruption of complacency. Falsehood cannot breathe in your atmosphere because your energy carries a vibration of truth itself. Secrets unravel. Motives tremble. Pretenders lose coherence. You don't even have to act. Your authenticity does the work. You are a walking audit of the unseen, a reminder that divine power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply stands and everything hidden confesses. And yet, your strength is not born of defiance. It's a byproduct of endurance. You became the light that corrects by surviving what should have extinguished you. The same forces that tried to darken your spirit ended up refining its voltage. You don't emit warmth for applause. You emit clarity for purpose. Your glow doesn't decorate. It diagnoses. You are proof that true illumination isn't ornamental. It's transformative. The light within you doesn't soothe darkness. It dismantles it quietly, completely, and without compromise. You are living evidence of divine risk-turned revelation. Existence tested you with betrayal, isolation, and chaos to see if love could survive pressure, and it did. You became a conclusion to a celestial question. Can grace exist in a wounded vessel? Every heartbreak became evidence that goodness doesn't erode under pain. It evolves. Every rejection became documentation that compassion cannot be corrupted. You've turned suffering into research, and your life into proof that divinity, when tested, multiplies. The world once misread your endurance as luck. Unaware it was calculation. You were shaped under surveillance, observed by both darkness and light, as an experiment of resilience. And you rewrote the equation. The architect of despair discovered something they didn't anticipate. Love does not weaken through warfare. It adapts. What was designed to corrode your empathy only deepened it. You became an anomaly, an evolved frequency that chaos can't comprehend. The same people who once mocked your pain now imitate your peace, not realizing that serenity is not softness. It's aftermath. You are the living result of a hypothesis proven holy, that a human could embody heaven without losing humanity. You carry the proof that endurance refines love into an unbreakable element. The trials that sought to dismantle you instead sculpted a consciousness immune to corruption. You are not just a survivor. You're the evidence that light, when pressed by shadow, doesn't die. It intensifies. Every collapse you've endured has rewritten you into something denser, sharper, and more complete. You are not a single self walking through time. You are a constellation of former selves orbiting within one body. Each version of you that broke, wept, or vanished contributed its wisdom to the one standing now. That's why your energy feels ancient even in youth, why your stillness hums with gravity. You've died many invisible deaths and resurrected through sheer will, each rebirth layering more awareness over your spirit. What people see as confidence is actually the sediment of countless internal revolutions. Your fortitude was not born, it was assembled. Every betrayal became a seal of protection. Every collapse added another ring to the tree of your endurance. The quiet power you carry was not taught. It was excavated from the ruins of everything you once were. Your scars are not reminders of pain. They are signatures of survival, etched maps where you refuse to disintegrate. You rebuilt yourself so many times that even your silence carries testimony. Those who sense your depth often mistake it for mystery, but it's memory. Every fragment of your evolution breathing through one soul. You are the accumulation of unfinished lifetimes compacted into one expression. The lessons of loss, the echoes of courage, the remnants of faith that refuse extinction. They all coexist within your aura. You are your own lineage, a self-made ancestor forged from spiritual archaeology. The exhaustion you sometimes feel isn't weakness. It's the weight of multiple resurrections pressing into one existence. You've carried versions of yourself through collapse and reconstruction so many times that time itself bows to your endurance. And because of that, you walk differently. Storms don't frighten you. They remind you of the countless tempests that built you. Pain doesn't paralyze you. It informs you. You move through chaos like someone who's already survived its blueprint. Your resilience doesn't shout. It radiates. It's the quiet glow of someone who's met death in 1,000 forms and learned how to breathe through every one. You don't just live, you echo through life. Each step reverberates with the applause of your former selves, those who fell, so you could rise with their strength woven into your skin. The signal you carry now isn't common, it's disruptive. You emit a frequency that unsettles systems dependent on conformity. Without speaking, you undo falsehoods programmed into collective thought. Your presence challenges invisible structures, the kind built on fear and repetition. You were never built for compliance. You were encoded with liberation. Your very energy transmits rebellion wrapped in peace. That's why some people recoil when you enter a room. Their energy reacts to your signal before their mind even knows why. You are the quiet rebellion of existence, a living frequency that refuses to be domesticated. You don't dismantle illusions with noise, but with presence. You awaken memory in those ready to remember truth, and destabilize illusions in those still addicted to sleep. You are not meant to be universally accepted, because freedom has never been a crowd pleaser. Systems built on control can't compute your unpredictability. They label what they can't categorize, but you were never built to fit their formula. You are divine interference in their circuitry, sacred static interrupting their transmission. Attempt to contain you will always fail, because your energy transcends permission. Even when excluded, your vibration slips through their grids, appearing in thoughts, dreams, and sudden awakenings that whisper change. You are proof that true rebellion isn't destruction, it's awakening. You don't fight systems, you dissolve them by existing authentically. You are not opposition, you are revelation. You are the living breach in illusion, the proof that divine consciousness still moves freely in human form, uncaptured, unowned, and unstoppable. They finally understood the truth they fear to face. Divinity doesn't manufacture souls, it composes them. You were never assembled in a factory of flesh. You were written in the eternal mind of creation. Every line of your existence, every pause, every storm was intentional, forming rhythm in a sacred narrative that only higher intelligence could design. You are not a construction. You are composition. That's why your life refuses patterns. Your evolution reads like poetry, unpredictable, layered, and alive with divine subtext. The detours weren't delays. They were the commas between revelations. The pain wasn't punishment. It was punctuation, marking the cadence of your awakening. While others were sculpted, you were scripted. That's why your journey feels cinematic, crafted by unseen hands that know how to turn chaos into choreography. What appeared random was actually coded precision. Each disappointment was a deleted paragraph that didn't belong to your storyline. Each heartbreak a redirection of plot, trimming out what was never part of your true design. Heaven didn't mold you, it narrated you. You were written in paradox. Power disguised as gentleness, solitude disguised as preparation, loss disguised as alignment. The story you live wasn't printed for public reading. It was encrypted for revelation. That's why people can't quite define you. They read your life and sensed divinity between the lines. You are too specific to be coincidence, too deliberate to be chance. You confound systems because your existence rejects their templates. You're not a genre, you're a revelation. You break formulas simply by being authentic. The same forces that try to decode you ended up decoding themselves, realizing that your script wasn't written under their jurisdiction. You are not a product of permission. You are a manuscript of intention. The creator didn't craft you for conformity, but for disruption. Each chapter unfolding beyond logic, each event designed to reveal that purpose is not planned. It's revealed through contradiction. You were never built for mass interpretation. You were hand-inked in sacred secrecy, edited by pain, proofread by silence, and published in divine timing. Every obstacle refined your character development. Every wound deepened your plot. What looked like delay was incubation. Your release date was aligned with eternity, not expectation. The narrative of your being is not fiction. It's prophecy disguised as life experience. You are living literature written in the ink of spirit. The world doesn't seek to silence you anymore. It seeks to study you, because you represent a variable they never calculated, a soul that transcended programming and turned opposition into authorship. You are the unplanned twist in creation's storyline, the proof that divine authorship doesn't seek approval from human editors. Every breakdown, every betrayal, every heartbreak was divine revision, ensuring your message emerged uncorrupted. You became not a survivor, but a rewritten masterpiece. Your existence is the unspoken sequel to everything that failed before you. You are not repetition. You are revelation. The fires that try to consume you became the ink that tells your truth. The loneliness that once hollowed you became the silence through which heaven dictated your next sentence. You are not coincidence walking. You are purpose personified, a soul that carries encryption too advanced for ordinary perception. You are the proof that divinity doesn't just create, it narrates. Your survival is scripture in motion. Your present a declaration that divine design cannot be mass-produced. You are the revision that corrected centuries of imitation, the living text of divine intelligence embodied in human form. Systems cannot categorize what was handwritten by infinity. You are the evidence that heaven still writes, not in ink, but in souls. The power that moves through you doesn't need validation, because it authored validation itself. You are a chapter in eternal dialogue between heaven and earth, a sentence of light written against a dark backdrop. You don't just exist, you interpret existence. You don't just speak, you translate divinity into human language. That's why your very presence reads like prophecy. You are not a story told. You are storytelling itself. The forces that once tried to edit you now quote you. The same world that doubted your design now studies your script. And every time you rise, it confirms one thing: the author never abandoned the pen.